21 victory over the Eagles. Baron Morton to Nick DeGennaro, 37-yard touchdown pass for the victory late in the game. Drake May and the starters did not play after a couple days of joint practice action against Philly. New England will close out the preseason this Thursday night, short week in Cleveland, and the Revs host NYFC at 4:30 this afternoon at Gillette Stadium. Headlines brought to you by Safety Insurance, providing comprehensive coverage for your auto, home, and business. Ask your independent agent about safety. I'm Andy Hart. Those are your headlines here on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Are you actually coaching the game, or it's just that is?
I feel so strongly about that. I can't even tell you.
Boston Talk Sports here.
What do we got?
The Sports Hub. In this town, sports happens 24/7. We're Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Unprecedented in a lot of ways. And I admitted to Steve Buckley last week when I was on with Joe Murray in the morning that I now have a greater respect and appreciation for the 67 guys. The people that cherish the 67 Red Sox. I feel a little bit of that. Not a lot, but a little bit of that. With this regular season that we've uncovered in 2026. I could see why, especially in 1967. You hadn't won the World Series since 1918. Everybody, obviously hadn't experienced anything like a deep playoff run. They were terrible. 2 years before 67? And they go on this magical ride all the way to the World Series. Don't win it, but that's okay because it was a magical ride. And Steve Buckley said he is now covering sports, covering baseball, and a large reason is because of that. And it's a cool story, and this has been a cool story this year. I can't wait to see how it ends. I think it's been a successful season for the Boston Red Sox, regardless of how it ends. But in terms of this series with the Giants, I'm completely and totally okay with anybody that went out there and booed Rafael Devers. I just want to make that clear. I didn't get to talk a lot about it on Felger and Maz on Friday. He should have gotten booed. Now, do you have to be over the top? No, you don't have to do that. You could keep in the back of your mind some of the good things he did. He was here a long time was it 9 years was he here? Did a lot of things, had some big hits, some fun moments, big scoops, all this. But I'm just saying the way it ended was a problem. Okay? And I'm not going to apologize to anybody for the way that ended. That was a disaster the way it ended. So yeah, you boo his ass. You don't go out like that. And again, it's not like this is a guy that carried the Red Sox. This isn't David Ortiz. He had a couple hits in that run in 2018. Decent playoff there. He was one of the younger guys, but he had a good showing, and he contributed to the championship. Sure. But it's not like the Red Sox were on his back or he carried that. That's not what happened. So, I just feel like the way it ended overrides, unfortunately, a lot of the good things he did. And I'm not saying you just forget about all the good things he did. You don't have to have hate in your heart for Rafael Devers. I'm just saying he deserved to be booed when he went up to bat for the first time on Friday night. And most of the people did boo him. I knew it wasn't going to be a complete bloodbath. I said that on Friday. I thought there'd be a lot of people that cheered him, and there were. It was probably 60-40. But this player deserved to get booed. You can't act like that at the end. You can't be so selfish and stubborn and childish and, just a terrible teammate. There are things that transcend into pro baseball. Some things that maybe at the youth level would be completely unacceptable, but at the pro level, okay, you deal with it. I mean, I understand that. But being a complete selfish prick of a teammate is not one of them. That's what Rafael Devers was at the end. He never really addressed it, never really showed remorse or apologized or anything like that. And whatever, he doesn't have to. But that's going to impact the way I view him and the way I treat him when he comes back to Fenway Park. Again, you give him one solid boo, and then I'd probably just be quiet the rest of the series. But you can't end your tenure with the Red Sox like that and not expect a negative reaction. I think fans, I disagree. And again, I'm not going to tell you how to react. I disagree with fans that were able to overlook that. I disagree. You don't overlook something like that. I'm not saying you never move past it. But upon returning, I think that's something that needs to be addressed. I think that's something that needs to be, you need to have a say and say your piece. And I think a lot of the fans did, because you could be really good at something for a long time, whatever you want. You could be a really good employee. You could be a really good spouse. Could be really good at something for a long time. But if you do something at the end of your tenure or during your tenure as whatever, and it's really bad, guess what? That becomes a big part of your legacy. You could have the model employee here at 98.5 The Sports Hub. Very good host, does their homework, respectful of others. But then if one day that person comes in, loses their mind, starts punching the producers, and then destroys the studio, guess what? It's going to factor into how they're thought about. And that's going to factor into all of the above. Their job status, how they're remembered, their legacy with the state, all those things, despite the fact, hey, that person was great for 4 years, for 9 years. We never had a problem. They were the model citizen, great employee. Well, yeah, but then they went nuts. Or they lost themselves. They lost their way. And he tried to choke out Jeff Williams in the back, or he tried to, break the computers in the studio. That's not going to work. People are going to have a judgment on that, even though you were a model citizen for 9 years. And I think that's what needed to happen with Rafael Devers, and I think it did. Credit to the Red Sox for getting the wins. It's impossible to not remain impressed with this team. Without Garrett Crochet, without Roman Anthony. I would be very careful with Trevor Story bringing him back. I do not think the team should bring him back. I don't think the team needs him back necessarily. His defense could be an asset, but I don't know if it's worth injecting him back into the clubhouse and the lineup. And based on what everything's been, everything that's gone on, I'm just uncomfortable. And honestly, I wouldn't do it. Roman Anthony, that's different. He's too talented. So I would have him try to make a comeback and try to be a part of the things you want to do in October. Not so much Trevor Story, but I'm not going to lose sleep if they try to get him back up and contributing with this team. Because there is, especially in this American League, there's an opportunity for the Red Sox to do some things. There's an opportunity for them to make a true run. And, after the trade deadline, I'm going to say it. I have criticized John Henry. I've been all, over some of the decisions he's made. But it feels like, based on what I've heard and seen, he has woken up and he is now doing what needs to be done to help this team win. And I give him credit for that. And I think it's been good. I think it's been a good summer for John Henry. Now, it's got to continue. They've got to bring this into the offseason, and depending on how this year ends, they're going to have to build off of what they've done this summer. But to this point, I think it's been a good summer for John Henry. And you got to give him the benefit of the doubt going into the play. How are the Rays still in first place? I mean, I haven't heard a damn thing about the Tampa Bay Rays all year. All they do is just win games. The Tampa Bay Rays. After all this winning, the Red Sox are now 11 games over 500. There's still 6 games back of Tampa. It's a weird American League this year. Weird American League this year. I mean, it's wide open. Maybe Tampa's the favorite. The Yankees still have a better record than the Red Sox. I don't know how you don't look at the Red Sox and what they've done this year and not say that they're maybe the favorite to make the World Series. When you factor in their now record and how they've won during this stretch of games in July and August, how are they not the favorites to get to the World Series? I mean, most of the damn league, American, is under 500. I just mentioned the Rays and the Yankees. Chicago is in first place in the Central at 67 and 62. Everybody else in that division is under 500. And then in the West, you have the Houston Astros in first place at 500, 65 and 65. Everybody else under 500. What happened to the Seattle Mariners?
There's still only 3 games out of the division.
They are. But I thought they were going to be one of the better teams in the league. Them and the Blue Jays. I thought they'd be right back. Blue Jays.
What's crazy is they could still both make the playoffs.
They could. Yeah, and you can't dismiss anybody. Blue Jays just a half game behind Cleveland and Texas for that last spot, so that's a cluster. And Seattle's just 2 back. So this is for the wild card. So it is a wild scene in the American League. National League, not so much. You got some good teams over there. NL West is solid. Braves, Phillies. Obviously, the Brewers are doing crazy things. 81 and 49. We've seen that a few times. The Cubs are excellent. They're going to make the playoffs. That's probably the 2 teams out of the Central. St. Louis doesn't have enough. And obviously the Dodgers. We'll see what happens with San Diego. Diamondbacks trying, but they're probably not going to be enough. Despite the fact they're 6 games over 500 in the National League. Right now it's the Phillies and Cubs. The Padres are the 3rd team. Which would be really juicy for me. I'd love to see it. Really juicy. I hope this holds. With respect to the Arizona Diamondbacks, I don't need to see them in the postseason again. I really would like to see this hold. Okay? Because what you would have then in the playoffs, in the National League, okay, you want juice? Atlanta, Philadelphia. These aren't matchups. These are just the teams that would be in. Atlanta, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, best record in the league, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Diego. That is awesome. That is, I mean, those are the best teams in arguably the best markets. You know, I'd love to see the Mets in there. They're nowhere close. They're done. I'd love to see, the Cardinals is a great baseball market in St. Louis. But, I mean, with the way the Brewers have played this year and the last few years, the Cubs, obviously a great market. Phillies and Braves, great markets. And the Dodgers and Padres have been good, and they've battled. They have this nice little rivalry going in the NL West. Used to be the Dodgers-Giants. Now it's Dodgers-Padres. I think that'd be juicy, and it would really give them the edge in terms of winning the World Series. But it doesn't mean the American League can't get there, and who knows. And if it's the Red Sox, well, at that point, you'd be talking about destiny. Destiny, if they were to make the World Series. What a run that would be. Did the 67 Red Sox make the World Series? They did, right? I'll have to look that up. They won the pennant, I think. They lost to... But that was the whole thing. It was a great regular season, great turnaround, and they won the American League, didn't they? 92 and 70. I can hear people talking. I can hear them yelling, mad at me that I don't know this. 92 wins, 70. And then they faced the Cardinals in the World Series. Lost in 7. Oh! What a year that must have been. Who wrote a book on this? I'll bite. I'll read it. Who wrote a book? Did Buck write a book? Shaughnessy, I'll read the book. That must have been a crazy time. I'll read it. Somebody tell me. Tweet at me. 617-779-0985. We're going to go to you when we get back. Mark Dondero, 98.5, the Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5, the Sports Hub.
All right, back here, 98.5 The Sports Hub, 617-779-0985. We're going to get to some football, some thoughts. But first, let's go to the phones. Dalton is over in Dedham. Hey, Dalton.
What's up, Dondero, man? How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Hey, so I just want to get to this Red Sox team this year. Like you were saying, this has been probably been the most interesting seasons I've ever seen since going back to 13 with no one ever believed in that team. You had guys like Shane Victorino, Johnny Gomes. You had real ball players. Like they gave it everything they had. So this team this year, it's very interesting. Everyone likes to give Breslin a bunch of crap, but when you look at it, man, he's made some really good moves that have made this team just who they are now, like what they envision. They gave up 100 Dobbs for Wilson Contreras, and Wilson Contreras is having the best season of his career. And they did. They ended up giving up on Connor early. I was a little upset about that one, but my favorite signing though this year it's got to be Sonny Gray. Like the reason why he brought this guy in was to be the veteran in the room. They teach these kids how to pitch and honestly show a pitching rotation how it's supposed to be done. If I'm the Red Sox, game one, I'm in the playoffs. I'm going with him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And you know what I mean? And I think he has a huge impact on how good Peyton Toley's been this year. I just want to get your thoughts on that, man. So, all right, have a good weekend.
All right, thanks, Dalton. You too. Yeah, I totally agree. Sonny Gray, way above and beyond anything. I was hoping when they got him, now I know it was a little bit different. It wasn't a deadline deal. But I was thinking Jake Peavy. A veteran that could come in and just be reliable. Solid veteran who could come in and you get what you expect out of a guy like that. He has been way above that, way above reliable. He's been an ace. And I just, do I want to rely on Sonny Gray not necessarily, but damn, with these numbers and with the way he's pitched this year, I have to. Garrett Crochet, we know, isn't going to be able to be reliable in a playoff situation. Maybe you get him back. Maybe he can be a long reliever for you, pitch a couple innings out of the pen, opener if you want to do that. I don't like that, but maybe he could contribute in some way, shape, or form. Sonny Gray is my starter for game one of the playoffs. 16-3, 2.79 ERA. I mean, he's done everything you've asked him to do and more, way more. Look, obviously there are concerns associated with the pitching staff. There's concerns associated with everything. But I actually don't care because of how they've played this year. I've had concerns the entire season. Okay, they have they've checked every box this year to this point. Okay, now I don't know what other boxes you have left open for the playoffs, or what you're going to deem a successful Red Sox season now is going to be once we get through October. To me, it's already been a success, and they're playing with house money. Now they can't look at it that way. They need to still attack. But, I mean, if you've got Sonny Gray and you can get Ranger Suarez to, stay healthy and be right, and then you got a guy like Peyton Toley, and if you can squeeze something, I know Jake Bennett has sort of wobbled, but if you can squeeze something out of him, or, I don't know, like I said, Crochet comes back in some capacity, or if maybe you can, not my favorite idea, but Crochet and Bayo in some kind of, I mean, between Toley, Gray, and Suarez, that's a three-man foundational rotation that I'd be okay with going into the playoffs featuring. Doesn't mean they're going to be awesome. Sonny Gray isn't the horse that I want for a right-handed pitcher to be. He's 5'10"? But, his pitching speaks for itself, and I want, he's got to get the ball. He's got to be the ace. He's the ace. And he certainly looked like it. John's in the car. Hey, John.
Mark, let's not lose sight of one thing about Sonny Gray. How much of the money is St. Louis eating for Sonny Gray to be here? That's why Sonny Gray's here.
Okay.
If they had to pay Sonny Gray wouldn't be here. And it's the same theory of all these people that are telling me why the cornerback isn't signed for Kraft. They got the same business theory, our way or no way. So the player is playing well, and I'll give him full credit for that. But if Sonny Gray costs $40 million or whatever his contract is actually worth, then Sonny Gray would still be in St. Louis. He wasn't brought here to teach this team how to pitch. He was brought here because they got him for a song, and Crochet was the guy that was supposed to teach these guys how to pitch. He just couldn't stay on the field this year. That's what Sonny Gray was in a nutshell. And let's not lose sight of that. Breslow's been great this year for what he's had to work with because the team cripples any GM that has that position. So to say that Breslow did this well, I agree with that, sure. But he doesn't want to do it this way. No GM wants to do it this way. They want to be able to go there with a blank check and say, how much is the player worth? That's what we're going to pay the player. And not have to play these reindeer games about, well, we'll do this, we eat that, you send this guy over, we'll send the player later. And that's the problem, because the Red Sox morphed into a corporation instead of a team that just was worrying about best player at the position no matter what. The days of going to Kurt Schilling's house to sign a deal over Thanksgiving are over.
Okay. Woo. Love that energy from John. Now, I wasn't having that conversation right now. If he wants me to get back on that horse, I will. John has been me basically up until the last month. So I feel John. I understand, and I don't disagree with John. But I just want to be clear. The conversation that I was just having wasn't to absolve John Henry or, turn a blind eye to the way the Red Sox have been doing business. We were just talking about the playoffs and what the postseason could look like right here and now. And I was just talking about Sonny Gray. I wasn't going big picture right there. If you want to go big picture, like John said, I agree with him. You can't live this life and expect these results every year, that you're going to get a Sonny Gray and he's going to perform like that. You can't do that. So in that regard, I disagree. I disagree with the model. I disagree with the approach. But I'm also, based on the way this season has unfolded, I want to be fair. Adley Rutschman, all right, Curtis Mead, and some of the things I've heard behind the scenes indicating that John Henry has had some type of an awakening. Now maybe it's because of the pressure that the media has put on him. I don't know. I think that factors in, not the media solely, but the fans, all the noise. I think that's impacted him in a good way. So I'm giving him some credit there for going out and being aggressive at the trade deadline and trading away Connor Lee early. As much as I might have liked the prospect, you need to make deals like that because that's what the big boy teams do to get a guy, to get a player. Going and trading Marcelo Meyer. Going out and getting Adley Rutschman. That's what the big boy clubs do. And they've done that. I agree with what John said. The Sonny Gray, you cannot try to do that every year. Expect guys like Sonny Gray to become aces for you, and they're going to teach the rest of the staff how to perform. That is a losing proposition. They got lucky here. You give them some credit, fine. You can't do that every year. But the initial conversation, though, was about the playoffs this year, and it was about baseball, which, by the way, I'm so thankful we can do. We can have that conversation. That's what it's all about. Who's going to pitch? Who should get the ball? Who they should trade for to put them over the top? I want to be able to have those conversations, and this Red Sox team has enabled us to do that. Now, maybe next year we're right back to where we were. But at least for this moment, we can do that. We can have that conversation and talk about the playoff rotation and what's going on. Because Gray has been that good, and they're going to the playoffs. It was an unconventional route with all this stuff, all the unprecedented winning in July, and then continuing to win after the All-Star. I mean, even before July. This was really at the end of June. No, I guess it was the beginning of July. And then when's the All-Star break? Like July 13th or so? The big question was, would they be able to keep it going after the All-Star break? And it's an emphatic yes, because they've done it. And their division is good. I get that. Good, not great. But there are going to be real conversations we're going to have about postseason baseball, and I love it. Tampa currently scores with the Orioles in the fourth. Yankees leading the Blue Jays 2-1. We can monitor scores. I love it. 617-779-0985. Mark Dondero, 98.5, the Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5, the Sports Hub.
All right, back here 98.5 The Sports Hub, 617-779-0985. We were talking Red Sox. You know, this is, I mean, it's no small thing that we're able to have this conversation about the playoffs and the postseason and what this team could be. You know, I just, especially, I think it's actually good for the Red Sox. I mean, it's the best case scenario when you talk about the makeup of the American League and then what the National League would offer in a World Series situation. Nobody's going to care if they get to the World Series and don't win it. Especially, they're going to be up against a really good team out of the National League. But, I mean, I'm just amazed. It's not so much that they went on this win streak and got themselves back in it. I'm just amazed at all of the boxes they seemingly were able to check during the season. I mean, they really rallied, not just from a wins and loss perspective, but from a front office organizational perspective. I thought, I talked about this on Patriots Day with Tyler Milliken, and we were with Andrew Callahan. And I talked about the brand being broken. The Red Sox brand was broken. And I think this year, they have done things that have repaired the brand. I think they have repaired the brand this year. I didn't feel that way last year. Okay, last year, if you recall, they went to the playoffs. They went on a win streak. There was that electric moment in July, around the same time they got hot this year. That electric moment in July where Rafael Devers, or no, it wasn't Rafael Devers, for crying out loud. It was Ceddanne Rafaela hit the walk-off. They were on that heater. But then what happened August 1st or July? They trade Devers for nothing. They get nothing for him. You know, and then Alex Bregman's dealing with some injuries, and he's a little hobbled. And it's just, it went south. And the brand, despite the fact that they were able to get into the playoffs and do some good things, and they were on that heater, like I said, in July, they weren't able to capitalize on the momentum and do enough to fix the brand. The front office and the on-field uniform personnel weren't able to collaborate closely enough where they could fix the brand. This year they did. Now, is it completely fixed and they're completely back? No. You're going to have to continue to do the things you did this year. If you just go into the offseason and unload some of your better players and then don't adequately replace them or reset, then you're just back to where you were. You have to continue the momentum. But make no mistake, it was no small feat to create the foundation of fixing what was a broken brand. And they have created that foundation, and it's sort of back up and running. Doesn't mean it can't erode again or fall apart, but it's back up and running to a degree. Bob is in Hampton Beach. Hey, Bob.
Yeah, I just heard you say they got nothing for Devers. I mean, you got Kyle Harrison for Devers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you traded him for Durbin, right?
Correct.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, come on. Let's not say you got nothing for Devers. And you dumped that whole terrible contract. There's not a team in the league that would take on that Devers contract right now. What do you think?
Okay, so, no, you're right. That's exactly right. But I will say, Bob, the fact that they got Durbin in association with moving off of Harrison, like, I mean, whatever, that's okay, and that's a good deal. It's a good deal. But I'm just saying, for Rafael Devers, for what he was, there should have been a bigger return.
Nothing. He wouldn't play here. They had him at first base penciled in, and he wouldn't get on the field.
He was an all-star player and one of your best hitters in a generation.
No, you couldn't give that I'm going to let you guys go, but you couldn't give that contract away right now. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, thanks, Bob. No, they didn't get enough for Rafael Devers. I know, I get the contract was a factor and all that, but you've got to get more prospects, top-notch prospects, pitching prospects. You need a haul for a player like that. You can't give away a player like that at that point. And, yeah, it worked out. I mean, Harrison's been good in Milwaukee. Durbin ended up being good for you here. It has been good. But that's still not an adequate return for maybe the best natural hitter you've had on the Red Sox since Manny Ramirez. It just isn't. I don't care that Durbin's gotten a little hot or whatever. Who did the Red Sox get when they traded Manny Ramirez? Was that Jason Bay? Or am I thinking of something else? When did he come here? Yeah, Jason Bay. That's an adequate return. Jason Bay and some other guys. I mean, that's at least an all-star player. So, I just would have liked a little bit more for Rafael Devers. Hey, it worked out a little bit. The contract, he was disgruntled, the culture. But they got to find a way to get more for a guy that is that talented. Let's go to Steve in New Hampshire. Hey, Steve.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
I'm well.
Tell me about 67.
Okay, in 1967, I was 13 years old. I'm 72 years old now.
Wow.
I won season tickets at a raffle at St. Mary's Carnival in West Quincy. Cost me 25 cents.
For the 67 season?
In the 67 season, yes.
Jeez. Okay.
It cost me 25 cents. 3 days later, Father McMahon shows up at the house. He says, "Is Steven here?" And I said, "Yeah, it's me." He says, "You won." I said, "Won what?" "You won season tickets to the Red Sox." It was unbelievable.
What was their record of that? Did you know they were going to be that good that season when you won the tickets?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. But I was there. I was there when Tony Canigliaro got beamed.
Oh, man. Heartbreaking
He
night.
went down like a ton of bricks.
Okay, I didn't realize that was in the same season.
Yes,
he didn't
was.
play again, right? He never played again, right?
Yes, he did, but it was about like a year later or so. And I believe his brother Billy was playing right field.
Wow.
And in the seventh inning of the same game that when Tony C got beamed, there was a protest during the seventh inning stretch.
Yeah.
Where somebody threw a smoke bomb out in left field, and it filled the whole park with yellowish green smoke. And they delayed the game for over half an hour until it blew out.
Okay, wild time. Thanks for the call, Steve, and the memories. Wild. I didn't realize the Tony C incident happened during that season. I should have known that. That was my mom's favorite player. I don't know. Would that have made a difference in the World Series? It was Tony Canigliaro. Was he even that good? I don't know how good he was. But I remember the picture. It's a shame. That really kind of ruined his career, if I remember right. But, yeah. I'll read the book. Who wrote the book? Canigliaro. He was an all-star that year. Jeez. He was an all-star in that season. Led the AL in home runs in 65. All-star in 67. I don't know. Maybe that would have been the difference. It's a shame. But yeah, he came back. Played more. That didn't really end his career. He came back in 69. Okay.
I don't know, man. Bob Gibson was lights out.
Didn't he pitch like 4 of the games or something like that?
Three complete game victories with an ERA of 1.
So maybe that would have been too much to overcome. Real quick, let's get to Dennis in Milton. Hey, Dennis.
Hey, great show. Appreciate it. Haven't called in a while, but I just want to piggyback off what Bob said about Devers. I've been thinking about this. I was a big Devers fan, for years. But that last time that he didn't want to move from corner to corner, and he said no, and the situation that we're in with the Red Sox, it's like enough's enough. And he would have got the Mookie Betts welcome home. He would have got the Xander Bogaerts. But at the end of the day, we did get Harrison, and indirectly we got Durbin. When you look at hundreds of millions versus 796,000 with what Durbin's bringing you, the guy didn't want to move. And these entitled professional athletes, I don't feel bad for him. So it worked out. The second thing I wanted to talk about, I want to get your opinion, then I'll hang up.
Yeah.
I really want to get your opinion specifically on shortstop, because I'm a big Monasterio fan, and he's done a great job. Yeah, he's made some errors, but he's been a big part of this whole energy this shift, into winning. So I want to get your opinion on that.
All right, thanks,
and that's about it. Have a great day.
You too. I would keep Monasterio at shortstop. I'm not messing there. Look, Trevor Story's just not good enough to force him back into the lineup. He's not Roman Anthony. It's not some uber talented player. Yes, he might be at his peak, better defensively. I would remind you, though, the Red Sox have won how many world championships? 4. Who were the shortstops on those teams? You know what I'm saying? I mean, nobody outstanding. It wasn't like there was Nomar there or these all-star studs that you had to have in the. It was Orlando Cabrera, who you got at the deadline. It was Julio Lugo? Was it Steven Drew, who was the shortstop in 2013? I don't even remember. Okay, and then in 2018, who was playing shortstop? I genuinely don't even remember. Bogarts was third, right? Or was Bogart? Who played short? My point is, you don't need some all-star shortstop.
Bogarts.
It was Bogarts playing short. You don't need an all-star. Bogarts was a good player. But you don't need a top-of-the-league guy. I wouldn't disrupt what they have now with Trevor Story. I just wouldn't do it. I like Monasterio. Is he a 4A player? Probably. But based on what they have now, I think you can roll with that. I mean, especially if you get Anthony back. Now you have Adley Rutschman. You have Wilson Contreras, who's hitting the ball. He hit one in New Hampshire the other night. I don't think it's worth the risk, honestly. You can activate him, and if you find that the defense might be necessary once you get into the postseason, and all right, you want to keep him around, but this is not a player that I would, bend over backwards for just because he's healthy. He's not good enough. 617-779-0985 hasn't hit well enough, hasn't stayed healthy, he's been disruptive a little bit in the club. I just wouldn't do it. Everything that they've done well this year happened outside of Trevor Story. I would not force him back. Mark Dondero, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
It's hard to believe that interleague play has been around for so long. You forget that they never used to do this. I mean, 30 years ago or whatever, they never did this. They played. You know what? I like interleague play. I wouldn't go back to the old way, but there was something, mystical, I guess, about playing the National League only in the All-Star game and then in the World Series. I almost want to do it again for 1 year and just see how it feels. I don't think the take would be go back to that format, but it was kind of ridiculous, or not in a bad way, but just crazy that that's what they used to do. You never used to play any of these teams. You just play all the American League teams a million times.
But even when interleague play began, you'd only play a certain time of the year.
Yeah.
And you'd only play against your opposite division. Like, you didn't play anybody in the Central. That wasn't until, I want to say, mid-2000s, right?
I don't even remember. I remember that the Red Sox, when it started, they played like the Mets. They played, I guess, some of the NL East teams.
I had a friend who was a big Braves fan, so, that was always fun to see those two go at it.
No, it's a good showcase for the league. You want, it's fun to watch Shohei Ohtani. I know he played for the Angels, or big stars. I mean, for crying out loud, you listen to the old timers; they never even get to see Willie Mays play. But maybe at the All-Star game, but that was, you couldn't even watch him, let alone have him come to Fenway Park. But you want the best players in the league accessible to the entire league. That's better for the game. There was an interesting aspect to just being American League and National League. And the Giants, they just don't come here all the time. So that's just interesting. Calvin's in Medway. Hey, Calvin.
Hey, I'd like to talk about a big pickup for the Red Sox.
Yeah.
I think right now the Red Sox should give up everything for Pete Crow Armstrong. The kid's going to be the second best player in MLB for the next 7 years.
All right. I love the take. Thanks, Calvin. I'm all for the Red Sox going after stars. Not sure why the Cubs would do that. Cubs are, they're a good team. They're in the playoff hunt. He's a great player. One of the best American players going right now. I'd love to see, again, just to off of what Calvin said, any move the Red Sox make for a star player, I'm in. That's the type of thing that repairs the brand. So if the organization, the front office, wants to make a play for a guy like that, do it. I just don't see why the Cubs would give up on him. I mean, they were the ones that signed Alex Bregman. They're okay with spending some money. They're not cheap. They know that's a guy that's a central guy. By the way, I don't know if a lot of people do know this. We watched as a family not too long ago, Little Big League. You remember that movie, John? I don't know if you remember that movie.
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
You know where I'm going with this?
No.
Okay. Do you remember the mom in Little Big League? His mom? That's Pete Crow Armstrong's actual mother.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Yeah, no.
I think that's crazy. She was old. I mean, I think I looked it up. In the movie, she was in her 30s or early 30s. So she must have had him a little later in life. But yeah, the mother of, what was the kid's name in the movie? Now I'm blanking on his name.
I was just watching clips this the other day and I can't think of it.
Yeah, I'll think of it. That's Pete Crow Armstrong's actual mother. And when you look at Pete Crow Armstrong, you can see it. Henry Roland Gardner's Rookie of the Year. Billy Haywood. Yeah. So that was interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'd love it, but I just don't think that the Cubs would do it. You got to identify somebody that's on a team. That's why the Mike Trout stuff was out there, because the Angels have been bad forever. They're going nowhere. That's the type of team you try to poach the star from. Not going to happen for the Cubs. Maybe a team like the Mets, if they wanted to give up on one of their guys. I don't know why you'd want one of those guys right now. But, yeah, Crow Armstrong's a good player and a young player. He's only 24. Already a two-time All-Star. Is he a college guy? I don't think so. Committed to play at Vanderbilt. but I think went into the draft, got drafted 19th overall. Vanderbilt knows how to recruit, man. Yeah. Really strong pipeline up here in the Northeast, too. If your kid's a good baseball player out of New England, Vanderbilt, we'll see them. They'll be coming. Great school, SEC. They've done a good job recruiting. 617-779-0985. PCA. Is that his nickname? Where's he from? He's from, California. Got it. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying about the Red Sox and continuing to repair the brand. It has to, a move like that has to be made this offseason. Maybe not for that guy, but another top player. Not Sonny Gray, as good as he's been. A bona fide, undisputed top player. That's how you repair the brand. You show the team, the fans, you mean business, you're in the winning business, and you can keep it going. Okay, we're going to get to headlines. We'll be right back here. Eventually, we're going to get into some football. The game last night, looking ahead. And are you comfortable with the starters not playing any snaps in preseason games? We'll talk about that. Mark Dondero, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
From the Town Fair Tiger Studios, this is Boston's home for sports. Touchdown! The flagship station of the Patriots, Bruins, the Celtics, WBCFM and HD Boston 98.5 The Sports Hub. Leslie Media Group station celebrating 65 years of broadcasting. Sports Hub headlines.
All right, the Sox will be back on the field in about 15 minutes, 10 minutes, when they go for the sweep over the San Francisco Giants at Fenway Park. Jake Bennett will be on the hill for Boston. Last night, Sox scored 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth to erase a 2-0 deficit. Dramatic fashion. They won it 3-2 on a walk-off. It was walk-off. They tried to get the play at the plate. Didn't work out. Sox win 3-2. Wilyer Abreu. Also last night, the Patriots, while that was happening, they got a victory. Sort of dramatic, but they won 24-21 late over the Eagles. Kyle Williams had his second touchdown catch in as many games. Pats will play their preseason finale on Thursday night in Cleveland against the Browns. You can hear that game right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. And speaking of hearing games on the Sports Hub, the New England Revolution will be on the pitch this afternoon when they host NYFC at Gillette Stadium. You can hear it right here. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by DN Van Lines. Take the chance out of your move and make the sure bet with DN Van Lines, an approved mover of the Department of Defense. DNVanlines.com. I'm Mark Dondero for Boston's Home for Sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update about an hour.
Deep three, violent two-hand slam. Wow.
98.5 Sports Hub. Boston Sports, yeah, we got that covered. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
But I've seen, for whatever reason, I've come across a lot of nostalgia accounts on social media. And as much as I appreciate some of the nostalgia and the throwbacks and looking back and doing all these things online, I feel like that's just adding to what we deal, the whole deficit that is the internet and social media. I don't think that's helping anybody. Now, it's fun to look back, but I feel like some people just find it depressing. You just look back at what you used to do or the things you used to like, and then you just kind of you feel bad about where you are here and now and what's available to you now. I don't think it helps. I just don't think it helps. I think it makes us more, it makes you long for the past more, which then by default makes you a little bit more, depressed is probably strong, but a little bit more, I don't know, down on what your current situation is. So you got to be careful. You want a healthy balance there. I don't know why I've been seeing so many. Maybe I clicked on one and they find me now. But yeah, Nintendo 64 doesn't happen much anymore. You can have it out. The kids can play, but I don't sit there playing Mario Kart by myself. So I don't see what watching clips of Mario Kart, what's that going to do for me? And I'm all for being nostalgic. I don't know if it helps. That's all I'm saying. Even though some of the old accounts, the 90s baseball accounts, John Miller, Joe Morgan, Sunday Night Baseball, I'll listen to clips. I'll watch clips of them all day long.
I love the one that I've seen where it's the opening to Baseball Tonight in the 90s. We used to be a proper country.
Yeah. I mean, you just think about, this isn't really a nostalgic conversation, but the way that you consumed the content, that was fun. I mean...
Oh, Baseball Tonight was great because you could see the highlights right as the game was going on and everything.
I mean, again, I'm not saying it was better. I don't know. Obviously, when you think about that time in your life, you're going to think of it different. I mean, I used to literally get up in the morning and sprint down to the TV to put on SportsCenter to see if Ken Griffey Jr. homered. In those mid-'90s years when the home run race was raging, I was a huge Griffey fan. And I hated Mark McGwire. I hated Sammy Sosa. I hated Tino Martinez. I wanted Griffey to have the most home runs. And him hitting a home run was almost more desirable than the Red Sox winning. They were probably right there with each other. But I went down and watched. I wanted to see if he homered. And if they had Mariner highlights in the first 8 minutes of the show or right off the top of the show, you knew he homered. It was a story. Griffey. They didn't put the highlights up if Griffey didn't homer. I used to get so excited to do that. I don't know if there's an equivalent of that today. YouTube? Do kids get excited to go to YouTube to see the 10-minute clip of the... I don't know. Maybe they do. The lead-ins, all the things that they used to do on SportsCenter, it was awesome. Now the colorful personalities have been washed away a little bit by the internet because anybody, on the internet, you can be a freak. You couldn't, not that they were freaks, obviously, on SportsCenter, but they were more colorful. Like Chris Berman today would not be nearly as popular because everybody online is colorful. Everybody on TikTok is colorful. That's the whole point of those platforms. To be creative, to be out there, to be a little freakish, and I don't mean that in a negative way. But the things that Berman did, you didn't see. You didn't, the sound effects. Like, there's weird stuff. People thought, he was a unicorn. Now there's weird, people online all the time are making weird sounds, doing weird things, trying to be different. That happens all the time. It didn't happen as much back then. And when it happened on TV, it was really noteworthy. He just wouldn't be as popular. Nothing against him or his talent. He's unbelievable, but it just wouldn't be as popular now. All right, back to the calls. Dom is in Worcester. Hey, Dom.
Hey, Dondero, what's going on?
What's up, man?
I've got a couple comments. I think getting rid of Raffy Devers was a blessing. Thank God we dumped that contract, and he was just a selfish player. They're playing as a team now, and he didn't even want to move positions. And then I got a question for you. When Roman comes back, are you putting him in the outfield? Are you DHing him? He's not a good outfielder. I don't know how he's reading the hops off the monster. What's going to happen there?
Okay. So I agree with the point on Devers. Like I said, I'm uncomfortable trading a player with that level of talent who is that good and not getting a little bit more in return. I need a little bit more. I need a top prospect in return, at least. Okay? Kyle Harris, whatever. I just wanted a little bit more. But you're right in every other aspect of what you said. They needed to get rid of him. The team aspect, the cultural impact he had on the clubhouse was really bad, especially at that time. Then obviously not doing what was best for the team and being so public and whiny and disgustingly childish about it was bad. So yes, moving him was the right deal. It was the right move. I just feel you have to get something more when you're trading a player of that caliber. That's the only problem I have with that. And Roman Anthony, I would DH. I would not put him. I would not try to get him back in the outfield. Do I love Jarren Duran in left field? I don't love him, but at least I love the fact that he'll go after balls hard. He'll give you everything he's got. And I just wouldn't introduce. I also think There is a psychological impact if you have played on the field, in a baseball situation, and then you are removed for designated hitting responsibilities, that could impact you in a negative way. And I don't think that's what you'd want to do for a player like Roman Anthony defensively. I don't think that's worth it. He's not good enough defensively to disrupt something like that. Not that Duran has been awesome, but the team has been really good. And I wouldn't introduce that dynamic at this point. I would DH Roman Anthony, especially with Yoshida hurt. I'd keep Duran in the field, let him just keep doing what he's doing. And that is a candidate of a guy that in the playoffs, hey, maybe he catches fire. Maybe you're rewarded by staying with him, and he gets insanely hot, and he's hitting double after double after double in the playoffs for you. I would let Anthony DH and do it that way. Chris is in Somerville. Hey, Chris.
Yeah, my name's Chris from Somerville.
Yep.
Just have a few comments. On interleague play, why not do a different approach and cut off interleague play at the All-Star break or the trade deadline, so down the stretch you're only playing your league. Also, I'm an Indiana transplant, so I got to shout out Kurt Sagnetti and Fernando Mendoza.
Okay.
Go Hoosiers.
Go random shout out there. Yeah, Mendoza is a specimen. I don't know what to make of that guy. Shouting out Mr. Buck after the did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Jeff didn't see it? Okay. So just in case you didn't see it, during the game, the preseason game the other night, he shouted out Mr. Buck and Mr. Aikman in the booth. I've just never seen anything like it. There's nothing wrong with that. I think he's going to be a good player. And Kurt Sagnetti is, awesome, obviously. I wish Boston College hired him. Respect to Bill O'Brien, but it hasn't worked out to this point. I don't know what BC, wants to do in terms of their NIL money and if people would even care. I would have a lot of fun if BC went on a run with a guy like Sagnetti at the helm. That would be a lot of fun. I'm a fan through marriage. My wife went there, so I, root for them. We've been to a couple games or a game in the last few years. I just, it doesn't really make much noise here, Boston College football. But, whatever. I just feel like, what was his first point? Oh, interleague play. Yeah, you could do that. I don't think that's that big a deal. If you're going to play the games against the other league at the beginning of the season, I don't think it matters all that much. But I wouldn't go back to the old way. I do think you need to expose the entire league to the best players. It's cool when the Red Sox go to the Cubs. Like, that can't just happen at the World Series. You got to be able to do that all year long. I like seeing the National League teams, and it's the way it should be. Steve's in Fall River. Hey, Steve.
How are you, my friend? I'm really the whole work of this season at Tracy and the Red Sox brass is getting these guys back from the injured list and figuring out where to put them. And yes, there's something you might not want to upset, but there's a reality here that looking at the catching position as a template, this kid came in, we rushed him back. He's not doing anything hitting. Well, guess what? Now he's hitting. People are freaking out about Story coming back. He'll be the same thing. He probably won't hit before he can field. Monasterio was done. He's not hitting now. He's done. He hasn't hit in a week, and he can't field. He cost them 4 runs the other night when that grand slam got hit. Mm-hmm. He couldn't make that play pop up over his head. He was going zigzag out instead of straight instead of catching it. He's a liability. Can't have 4 outs in an inning. You already said, you correctly said you can't bring Anthony in and try to put him in left field. Duran's better in left field, way better in left field than people want to lead on. He almost caught that ball the other night in the Tolley game.
Yep.
Anthony wouldn't have been near it. He had it in his glove. He fell too hard. It popped out of his glove. He throws people out. He's not as good as the other two guys. He's clearly third, but he's a way better player than Anthony. He's also hitting very well here in the month of August. Everyone wants to tell you he's 210, but we got to hear what Abreu's been doing since the All-Star game. Monastero's got so many doubles since July 1st. The third baseman's batting 300 since he talked to his swing coach. But everybody wants to lurch back and tell me what Duran's been doing since the whole year. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter what he was doing in April. It matters what he's been doing in August. He's batting 269. His slugging is 850. He's on a 6 or 7 game hitting streak. It's time to get this lineup corrected. He needs to be back at the leadoff, and Sogard needs to take his place down at the bottom of the lineup.
And you'd have Trevor Story in at shortstop, Steve.
Oh, 100%. The second he's ready, he has Monasterio's done. Whatever he did.
Okay.
The guy's, he is what he is. I mean, let's be serious here.
Yeah.
Talk about the ceiling. Let's talk about his ceiling. Did you see Trevor Story's year last year? Hello? From June 4th to the end of the year, he put up a year that no one is going to put up this year.
Okay.
Maybe Contreras will have a season comparable to last year. So if he's healthy, he's got to be back in.
All right. Thanks for the call, Steve. I'll let you go. Look, I hear what he's saying. It's a fine, fair point. I'm just saying they're winning still. And I would be I get the metrics and the analytics behind it. Maybe Monasterio has become the pumpkin or whatever. But if they stop winning for whatever reason, when Story re-enters the lineup, whether it's his fault or not, I guarantee you people are going to start wondering. And there will be a conversation and things are going to... I'm just saying they're still winning. They're still winning. So that's when I would really make the change. If I thought the team was going in the wrong direction, then you'd look at maybe, all right, this is what Monasterio's doing. It's not working and we're losing and it's not happening, but they're still winning. So, yes, Story would offer better defense and he might, if he could start hitting sooner than expected, that might be a better individual situation, but you got to keep winning. And even if it's not his fault, if he re-enters the lineup and they stop winning or they go, that's going to create noise that at that time of year you don't want to have. That's all I'm saying. All right, we got to get into the football. What happened last night? Some of the thoughts on the game going forward. This team, the depth. Mike Vrabel's comments from last night. Interesting. All of the above. Mark Dondero, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
It's Colossal Lobster Roll season at the 99 Restaurant. Choose hot buttered or traditional with celery and mayo. Both built to the hilt with chunks of tender North Atlantic lobster. Served with fries and coleslaw. Enjoy it with friends for a limited time. You gotta love the Nines.
Teams 24-21 win over the Eagles in preseason game number 2. We're, 2.5 weeks away from the opener at Seattle? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. That was a shot. Okay? That was a shot last night. Now, I don't know who he was taking a shot at, but that's a shot. I don't know if that was at Elliot Wolf. I don't know if that was a shot at Bill Belichick and Gerard Mayo. I don't know if that was a shot at the Patriots ownership and the fact that, Christian Gonzalez is still flapping in the wind. I don't know if that was a shot at his players. That was a shot, though. Mike, we don't have a very deep team, Mike Reese. Whew. It's a shot. Okay. Now, do I agree with that wholeheartedly? Not really. They're obviously unbelievably deep at wide receiver. I think they're extremely deep or getting deeper in the defensive backfield. Okay, we know. I'm assuming that Gonzalez is going to be a part of things. Now, if he's not, that changes the game. But when you look at what Kindle Vildor has done in the preseason, when you look at a guy like Prunty and how he's sort of gotten onto people's radar, and then you factor in the guys that they brought in and have, Craig Woodson, Kevin Byard, Marcus Jones, obviously Carlton Davis. Is he the best player? No, but he's an established veteran player. And then Gonzalez. That's a deep secondary. Deep. They're not deep at linebacker. I don't think they're deep along the defensive line. They're not deep along the offensive line necessarily. I think they're deeper than they were, but deep. I mean, look, the reason I don't freak out about depth is because any team that loses starting caliber players is going to be hurt. Now, some more than others, and maybe the Patriots are in that more than others category, and okay. But I'd much rather deal with some depth issues than deal with an issue of, hey, we have no dudes. Especially at some of the key positions. You can have a deep quarterback room, but not have a stud. I don't know what that gets you. So, okay, the Patriots, I don't know how deep they view their quarterback room. They've got a stud. They've got deep receivers, which is a key position in today's NFL. You've got 2 good running backs. I don't know if you want to call it deep, but who needs 3 good running backs? I think 2 is more than enough. And then if somebody gets hurt, you elevate somebody, and if you're able to block for them, they're fine. You've got first-round picks along the offensive line. You've got veterans along the offensive line. They're going to be better. They're going to be more athletic this year. I like the offensive line this year. Is it the best I've ever seen? Do I love it? No, but they're going to be better this year. They've got the 11th ranked and 27th ranked defensive tackle. Now, I don't know if that's, probably not as good as I thought or was hoping based on whoever put that poll together. I forget who put that together. But you've got 2 legitimate playmakers along the defensive line. We'll see what happens on the edge. I feel like they've got some high-end talent. And, yeah, if they're not as deep at some positions as they'd like to be, they'll have ways around it. Okay? They'll have ways around it. That's my guess. I mean, for example, you're lacking some depth at edge. Well, if you got Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, they're going to create some opportunities for whoever's at edge. So maybe your depth or lack thereof at edge won't show up as explosively as some people think. That's all I'm saying. But that was a shot last night. And I like him taking shots. Maybe that means he, wants them to sign Shaq Thompson or bring in some other veteran pieces that are available to shore up a couple spots. I'd be for that. That is a shot. And, I don't know where Mike Vrabel stands on the Christian Gonzalez situation. Maybe he's the one that is holding it up to an extent. Or maybe he's, fed up as a lot of us are and just want this deal to be done and get Christian Gonzalez back on the field, and feels like they're a much worse football team without Christian Gonzalez. I don't know. But that was a shot last night. 617-779-0985. I'll take my chances with the depth of this team. And by the way, Mike, if your team's not deep enough, you've been around for 2 drafts. They should be deeper. Okay, you drafted Gabe Akis in the second round. He should be a guy that can get on the field and play. You need to draft players in that part of the draft. Second, third round, fourth round, that are able to become depth pieces. That's your job. And you were there last year. And, good for you. You got Travion Henderson. You got Will Campbell. But then you drafted Kyle Williams, who's a good depth piece, but at a position you have a million depth pieces at. Third round, Jared Wilson, good piece. He's probably your starting center. Craig Woodson. That was an awesome draft. Joshua Farmer is probably a depth piece along the defensive tackle spot. Braden Swinson is probably, if he finishes camp strong, a depth piece on the edge. Man, that was a good draft. And we were all upset that Marcus Bryant got hurt last night. He was a 7th round pick. Good draft last year. 2025 was a good draft. Woodson, Wilson, Kyle Williams, whatever, we'll see. Travion Henderson, Will Campbell. Good draft in 2025. They're back. Vrabel is back. So that makes me think he's not taking a shot at, he's obviously not taking a shot at his production. He's taking a shot at maybe Belichick or Wolf or Gerard Mayo. Because 2025 in that draft wasn't the problem. That's for sure. The problem was the 2024 draft. Polk, Wallace, Robinson. Those were the devastating picks that were made in the 3rd and 4th round that could have offered key depth that they don't have available now. Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson or Javon Baker. Now, I do actually we'll see what's going on. Or I should say I did like Marcellus Dial before he got hurt last year. And that sort of derailed him a little bit. So we'll see if he can maybe contribute, but that's not enough to, he's not going to carry the 2024 draft. Joe Milton's gone. That was a disaster of a draft. So if you're talking about depth, maybe that's who he was taking the shot at, the 2024 draft, or how about the 2023 draft? Yes, you got Christian Gonzalez. That's the top pick. But everybody after that, DeMario Douglas in the 6th round, fine. You got the punter. The 6th round was good. Booty, Behringer, Douglas. But again, the rounds where you need to make your hay with depth pieces, the 2nd through 4th rounds of the NFL draft, that's where you get your quality depth. And in 2023, it was Keon White, who never could get it together to make enough impact on the team. Marte Mapu and Jake Andrews and Chad Ryland and City So. That was your 2nd through 4th round picks. No depth at all. So the 23 and 24 draft in terms of depth absolutely killed you. Maybe that's who he was taking a shot at. And obviously the 2022 draft was devastating. Cole Strange couldn't play. Bailey Zappi. Jack Jones was decent, but then you had to trade him. And they didn't have many picks. So their drafts have been awful. So maybe that's what Vrabel was talking about, frustrated at the past. But that was a shot. 617-779-0985. Mark Dondero on the Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
right, back here, 98.5 Sports. Mark Dondero. I don't know about you. I am uncomfortable with the idea of Drake May and the starters, most of the starters, but Drake May too, not playing a snap of preseason football prior to the first game of the season at Seattle on September 9th. I am uncomfortable with that. Now, I understand joint practices. They're working hard. They're practicing hard. They're going up against the good teams, the Eagles and even the Colts. That was a good matchup there for them. But that's not a situation where you're going to get hit. That's not in a stadium. That's not in front of the fans in the stadium. I don't love it, and I'm uncomfortable. Is it a disaster? No. Is it going to be a game changer for the Patriots? No, I don't think so, but I don't love it. Especially when you talk about a guy like Drake May going back to the scene of the crime and what happened in the Super Bowl. I know it's not the same stadium, but against the same team, this will be a road environment. They're going to be coming flying high, banner night, all the things associated with the celebration of the win in the biggest game of the year last year and what you did in that game and how you looked in that game. I don't know. The next time you're going to go on the field, with the real opportunity of getting hit and baptized by an opposing defensive player is going to be the first game of the year against that same opponent. I would have just put him out there for a little bit just to get him going a little bit. Just to get the juices flowing. Again, not a big deal. Not a game changer. I would have just liked to see him out there for a little bit. Just to get a little, where he could get hit. Just so the first game action where hitting, being hit was a possibility didn't happen against the Seattle Seahawks after what happened in the Super Bowl. That's all. It doesn't mean they can't win the game. Doesn't mean they're not going to be. I just would have liked to have seen him come back out and get into a game situation where he could have gotten hit before he goes back up against that defense in Seattle. So, we'll see what happens on Thursday night. I don't expect the starters to play. I'm not even going to bring up the fact that these people that pay for the season tickets and they go to the preseason games, they didn't get to see any of the starters, whatever. But, this team's probably going to win games because of their offense, but that doesn't mean their defense won't have a major hand in what's going on. And I just, there are things going against the Patriots this year. That will be a factor. And I have to admit that. Even though I do think the roster's better and I think they're borderline loaded in a lot of ways, there are things that are going to go against them. The schedule being one. Just the adversity of being a team that's coming off of, the win, or check that, the Super Bowl loss. That's a problem. It's hard. It's a hard thing to be. It's a hard team to be. The team that lost the Super Bowl. That's always hard for you in the next year. Nobody really got hurt last year. I'm sure they'll deal with some injuries. The whole Mike Vrabel situation from the offseason. Bad energy emanating from that. Not that that's going to affect their wins or losses this year necessarily, but, it wasn't a situation you want to be in as an organization with your head coach going through that during the meat of the offseason. Now, I understand that was a long time ago. That was during the draft, leading up to the draft. So we're talking April, what was that, 4 months ago? 4.5 months ago? But not great. I also don't know when the schedule became such a huge factor in pro football. I feel like we have talked so much about the schedule nationally, locally. Everybody's talked so much about the damn Patriots schedule. I never remember it being so much of a factor, not just for the Patriots, for any team. When was the last time that a team was a quality squad that you looked at their schedule going into the season and just automatically dismissed them because of the schedule? I don't remember that ever happening to any team. The Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Bills, the Packers, the Cowboys, the 49ers, like any of these teams recently. The Rams. Who's analyzing the Rams schedule? Their schedule's hard every year. That division's hard. Why don't we say that about some of the other teams? Well, their schedule's too hard. They're not going to be able to win enough games. They're going to be on the road in the playoffs, and that's that. We don't say that. We heard so much about the schedule of the Patriots. I think the Patriots are legit good. Yeah, their schedule's harder this year. They might not win as many games. The stats might not look as pretty. They're still going to be good. And if they're not, we'll find out what the major problem was, and we'll assess. But with Drake May and Mike Vrabel, they're going to be good. So what the schedule's hard? That doesn't dictate the fact that they're going to be a good team. I don't think it's worth the discussion. If you want to tell me because of personnel reasons or matchup reasons, because of a specific coach matchup or schematical advantage the other team might have, fine, I'll listen to that. But just the schedule's hard. They're not going to get back to the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's hard to get back to the Super Bowl in consecutive years. I never understand why, or I haven't understood why that's been such a focal point. It's going to be harder this year. They might not win as many games. They're still going to be good. It would be a major upset if they don't make the playoffs. And if they make the playoffs, yeah, they might have to win a road game. But hello, they were undefeated on the road last year, including in the AFC Championship game. I understand it was against a backup quarterback. They were undefeated. So I don't want to hear it. 617-779-0985. I think we're going to slap together the 98.5 that I had planned. We'll do that. Top 5 athlete returns in Boston history. Some are obvious, but we can do some of that. That's coming up. Mark Dondero, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
because of how obvious some of the answers would be. Top 5 athlete returns in Boston sports history. When the athlete, after being traded, came back to Boston. And, I think there's 2 that are probably no doubters. And this is going to be mainly in my lifetime. I'm not talking about when Babe Ruth came. I don't remember. I don't know. I'm talking about in my lifetime. I think, Jeff, the 2 that are no doubters, number 1 has to be Tom Brady. I would think when he came back, that was just huge. Belichick versus Brady. It was at Gillette Stadium. All the, the drama associated with him leaving, all the history. It was emotional. Like, that's got to be the biggest one. I'm going to go number 2, though. You tell me if I'm wrong. Roger Clemens.
That would have been mine.
Yeah, that was a big one. That was a big, with the way it ended, how long he was here.
The way he glares up at the press box.
Correct. The twilight of his career, the comments that were made. I think that was that was a big one. People felt a certain way, and he shoved it up the tailpipe of the Red Sox, if I remember right, in that outing, which was, 97 when he came back with Toronto? That was a big one. Who do you have 3? I'll give you a couple options. How about, I'm going to just throw a few out there. What about Ray Allen? Would that rise to the level? I mean, he went to a rival, essentially.
With everything behind it, yeah, I would say that should be 3, depending on what else you got.
You think that's on the list? I mean, I'm not going to go with Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. Like, they came back, it was positive. Manny Ramirez coming back. Like, I feel like that was at the end, and you just knew. What about Drew Bledsoe coming back November 10th, 2002? Not really big enough?
No.
You knew he had to leave. You knew it had to be done.
Yeah.
I'll give you another one. Maybe a sleeper that could get onto this list. Not the best player that's ever left and come back, but based on the situation, what about Wade Boggs? Is that a little spicy? Because he went to the Yankees. They hadn't won anything at that point. I remember that people feeling there was an energy to that one. Maybe it's not enough to get him on the list, but we agree that Allen would be on the list.
Yeah, 3rd, yeah.
What about, it hasn't happened yet, will Jaylen Brown be on that list?
Yeah, that could be a good one.
That might be a big one.
I could see that whole, remember when Kobe and Shaq faced off for the first time on Christmas Day?
What's the handshake like? Yeah,
exactly. I'd love to see that with Tatum and Brown.
I don't know. Like Wes Welker, was that a huge thing when he came back? Like, I don't think that's a huge thing. Because and part of this too, I know Tom Brady was one, but the baseball really lends itself to ovations. And I think it's a little bit more dramatic when there's an ovation to be had. I'll give you one that I'll put on the list. I'll put it on. When Mo Vaughn came back. I thought Mo Vaughn coming back was a noteworthy. I mean, he spent the entire decade essentially of the 90s with the Red Sox. They had some good years. He left for money, but I think they kind of reached the end of the line, and he got a great ovation when he came back, if I remember correctly. So I would put Mo Vaughn on the list at 4. I'd put Ray Allen at 3 just because of what they accomplished and then how it ended and where he went and what he did afterwards. And then the 5th one, I might put Boggs on there. Because, again, baseball, what type of ovation is he going to get? I don't even remember what the ovation was. Pedro, you knew what he was going to get. So in terms of highly anticipated, I just don't think it was there. Mookie Betts, same thing. You knew he was going to get cheered. I don't think it was that highly anticipated. It's more about when you're a villain, when you become somewhat of a villain, where it's really highly anticipated. And I think, Ray Allen, that box gets checked. I think Wade Boggs, that box gets checked. And I don't know Mo Vaughn, if he was a villain at that point, but he was they hadn't won any championships. It was the Red Sox. It was a Red Sox town at that point. They were the biggest team in the city. That was before Tom Brady went crazy and the Patriots started winning. So Mo Vaughn, the ultimate star of the biggest team in the city after a decade and a lot of success coming back at that time, felt like a huge deal. So that's why it goes on the list, and that's why I put Wade Boggs on the list. Johnny Damon, maybe. He wasn't here that long. How long was he here? 2002 to 2000, so 4 years. I think Wade Boggs was here longer than that. Was Joe Thornton? Was that a big? I mean, I don't think that was on the list just because, again, hockey's not as, Nomar would have been. But here's the problem with Nomar. He was traded in 2004, didn't come back to Fenway until 2009 with Oakland. So he was so far beyond kind of the player that he was and what he was doing. It wasn't really as relevant at that time. Now, had he come back in 2005 with the Cubs or something, that probably would have been higher on the list. But by the time he came back 5 years later, that matters. The timing of the return matters. Tom Brady came back, what was it, the 2 years later? The next year? 2 years. 2020 and then 21 is when he came back. So it was 2 years after he left. He played the 19 season here, came back in 2021. Still close enough to when he left. You come back 5 years later. If it was Tom Brady, it was always going to be highly anticipated. But it's not as highly anticipated if it's been a long time or if you weren't the reason that you left. Where, Nomar, it wasn't necessarily his doing. That is why he left. They traded him. But I think he got a good ovation too. But after 5 years, he should have. If he had gotten, if he came back in 2025 or 2025, in 2005 or in 2004, even later that season, I don't think the ovation would have been as good. It would have been good, but not. There would have been some boos. Antoine Walker. Kyrie Irving, honorable mention, just because of how mad everyone was. That was somewhat highly anticipated. You could put that on the list. I wouldn't have a problem. Maybe I put that over Wade Boggs. I'll put Kyrie Irving over Wade Boggs. I mean, obviously, Jaylen Brown's going to get a rousing ovation when he comes back. There's no mystery about that. He is going to be given the standing O, curtain call, everything when he comes back. And Bledsoe, again, football, it's just harder. You're not under the spotlight like you are when you get up to bat in baseball. There's no individual introduction, really. So it's just a little bit harder. Yeah, I guess, Manny Ramirez, 2 years later, came back. I don't think that was long enough for him. I think that was, a situation where, I don't know. It just didn't feel like they, in terms of anticipation, didn't feel like the juice was there for that one. Pedro, same thing. He had reached the end of the line by the time he left. And it was, people were at peace with him leaving. Especially after 2004, Who's Your Daddy? Granted, he pitched great in whatever it was, Game 3 of the 2004 World Series. It was a perfect way for him to go out as a member of the Red Sox. I still can't believe it's been 22 years since I've seen Pedro Martinez pitch for the Boston Red Sox. Stupid long. But I think everybody knew it was time. So I don't blame him. 617-779-0985 if you want to chime in. We're only going to 4:30 today because of a Revs game. More football to get to. Including I want to just kind of clarify some stuff on Christian Gonzalez that was discussed this week. So we're going to do that. We're going to get a headlines here first, though. Mark Dondero, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
From the Town Fair Tigers News. Dutcher and Hardy, Owen Beetle, Felger and Maz, the Bruins, the Celtics, the Pats, the Revolution. This is Boston's home for sports. WBC-FM at HD Boston, 98.5 The Sports Hub, a Beasley Media Group station. Sports Hub headlines.
Red Sox back on the field at Fenway today, going for the sweep over the Giants. They're in the bottom of the third inning. Man on third for the Sox. Nobody out, and Cedar Rafaela is up. Red Sox currently trailing 3-1 in this game. Nick Sogard does have a home run for Boston. We'll keep you updated here if we can. Sox trying to make it 3 in a row, or trying to go, as I said, go for the sweep after the comeback last night where they walked it off after erasing a 2-0 deficit in the bottom of the ninth inning. The Patriots got the victory last night over the Eagles in their second preseason game, 24-21 the final. Kyle Williams had his second touchdown catch in as many games. Pats will play their preseason finale on Thursday night in Cleveland against the Browns. You can hear that game right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. And the Revolution, as I mentioned, they'll be on the pitch this afternoon at home when they host NYFC beginning at 4:30. Another game you can hear right here on the Hub. And the Red Sox just cut the deficit to 1 on a Cedar Rafaela base hit. So it's now 3-2 in the third inning against the Giants. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Boston Prolotherapy. Don't let joint pain keep you off the course, or trail. Eliminate that pain with Dr. Franke of Boston Prolotherapy. I'm Mark Dondero for Boston Home for Sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
The Sports Hub. 3 legendary franchises on one legendary radio station.
He scores!
It's the Sports Hub. No matter what team, no matter what player, no matter what coach, no matter what game, it all happens here. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Play to win at the highest level. I would like for the Patriots to re-sign him. If they do not re-sign him, I will become upset. I will rip them. We'll see if they do trade him, what type of return they get. That would go a long way in my analysis, but I do think they should retain him. But what I was trying to say on Friday with Felger and Maz is I don't mind the Patriots playing the game. Chris Gasper came on and offered his analysis and questioned whether or not, this would be a good time for the Gonzalez camp to come out and offer some type of insight into what they're thinking or where they are. And what I mean by that is, or what he meant by that is, maybe you are willing to take a certain deal from the Patriots, an obvious deal from the Patriots, but they're not willing to offer it to you. If that's the case, I would like for that to come out from the Gonzalez camp and let me know. Because if it's just north of what Seattle did for their guy, that should be good enough for Christian Gonzalez at this juncture. You're still under contract. Okay? And, he should come out and say that. I would at this point come out and say that if you were offered just above, or check that, if you were not offered a little more than what Devin Witherspoon got, I would like for them to come out and admit that or leak that or say that and articulate that you would be willing to sign for that deal, but the Patriots haven't offered it to you. The fact that hasn't happened makes me wonder, is the Gonzalez side of things looking for more? Are they getting a little greedy? Are they overstepping their bounds a little bit? That would turn off the Patriots, not to the player or to the prospects of them staying in business with the player, but just to the negotiation. And as a result, are they going to step aside, step back, and sort of let it breathe? Because if that's the case, if the Gonzalez people got a little greedy and, tried to get him paid like it was 2027 and tried to do this and that, and we're asking for a little bit too much, I don't blame the Patriots for saying, okay, well, we offered you what we believe genuinely to be a fair deal. we met the standard and you still want more, well, you're still under contract. We'll take a step back for now and then see what happens once it gets real. I don't mind the team doing that. He's under contract. I would like a deal to get done, but sometimes you have to do it the way that it has to be done. And just giving him whatever he wants at the drop of a hat isn't always the way it should be done. You know, I think that could burn them a little bit later on. And that's just a position that's inconsistent. You know, maybe it doesn't burn them financially. Maybe it'd be good for them. I don't know. But I don't think that's a real negotiation if you just give every player, whenever they're up, whatever they want. I do think it's healthy to go through a negotiation. And, you know, I also wouldn't mind if they give him a raise this year and then plan next year to go back to the negotiating table. I would love to see if he is able to prove that he's a consistent performer, that he's able to stay healthy. Another year of staying healthy and performing at the highest level will go a long way. Would go a long way for me in trying, you know, in being able to get to the level financially that he wants you to get to. I think he should be able to get to it anyway. I think he's proven enough. But it wouldn't hurt another year in. Then you have a little bit more clarity on Drake May's situation and what you're going to offer him. And you can work with that information and go forward with that knowledge. Until then, though, they're going to remain at a stalemate. Do I expect this to get done? I do. Let's go back to the phones. Mike is in the car. Hey, Mike.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, I caught the conversation about the greatest comebacks to Boston.
Yeah, hit me.
This sort of falls in that category. It's a bit different, but the year was 2006, 2007, and the Norfolk Tides rolled through Pawtucket, and batting eighth is hitting a $180, Mark Bellhorn. And
really?
I swear he got a minute-long standing ovation. Norfolk Tides, maybe he was hitting 220, but
he was in the minor leagues.
Well. Yeah, Mark Bellhorn was in the minor leagues. I don't know if he was on assignment or that he just wasn't. He just got kicked out of the minor leagues. But yeah, Bellhorn came through and yeah, a minute-long standing ovation, and I just thought that was a really cool thing for like the small city of Pawtucket to give back for.
All right, cool. I appreciate that perspective. Yeah, cool thing. It doesn't really fall under the category of highly anticipated, which is fine. That I didn't know. I mean, it would be even cooler if he was just straight up, sent back down. I mean, he went from being a World Series ALCS hero to being back down. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the end of his career was 2007. So maybe at that point he was struggling and batted 190 in 2006. 2007, he signed a minor league deal with the Reds with an invitation as a non-roster player to the Reds spring training camp and then was optioned to AAA Louisville. Wow. So, yeah, that is unbelievable. I mean, it's not unbelievable, but, I mean, he was legitimately in the minors, performance-related. He wasn't on a rehab. He wasn't injured and working his way back. He just sucked. His career was eroding, which happens. It's fine. And he was in the minor leagues. And there you have this guy that was a legitimate hero for the 2004 Red Sox just plodding along in the minor leagues and going to Pawtucket in 2007 as a member of the Louisville Bats because of performance. This is a guy that hit the home run in Game 6. I was there. The bloody sock game, hit the home run, hit the game-winning home run in Game 1 of the World Series for the Boston Red Sox off the foul pole. 2 years later, he's in the minor leagues. 3 years later, playing it out in the minors, Pawtucket. Crazy. But a cool moment for those folks at McCoy Stadium. Mike is in the car. Hey, Mike. Another Mike. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
What's up?
I think you said that football guys don't usually get the ovation, but I think Adam Vinatieri, when he first returned back to Foxborough, there was some definitely mixed reviews. With a lot of boos, a lot of cheers, and then another guy, Brad Marchand.
That's a good one.
Back.
Yep.
I know he got a lot of cheers, but he went to the enemy too, so that was not always a great reception.
That's a good one. A couple good ones there. The high. I could have mentioned Joe Thornton coming back. I don't remember that one as vividly, but I'm sure there was some anticipation associated with that. Especially he played pretty well on the Sharks. Didn't he win the MVP that year or the next year or something? So yeah, those are good ones. The Marchand one was good. Wasn't he back? I don't know if he played in the game, but wasn't it pretty quickly after they traded him he came back? I don't remember. David in Groveland. Hey, David.
Hey, Mark. Nice perspective from you listening to you this last week while some of the guys have been off. So it's been a pleasure listening to you.
Thanks, man.
I just wanted to bring up the thing that you said about the Patriots. So I see what side you're on, and I agree it's a negotiation. But don't you think the Patriots and specifically Bob Kraft look bad to the entire anybody that wants to play for them if they don't offer him a contract or they don't sign him for a contract that's the biggest contract after he went out there instead and had something to say?
So I'm not sure I understand your question. After Kraft went out there and had something to say?
Well, yeah, Kraft said that we offered him the biggest contract ever for a corner. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't you look bad as a don't you look bad? Don't you look bad to everybody in the league if you don't then offer him a contract that's the highest contract ever?
Yeah, I mean, I think you would look bad maybe for other reasons. And thanks for the call, David. I mean, I'm under the impression that contract they offered him was before the Witherspoon contract, and maybe they were trying to get him at a little bit of a cheaper rate, even though it was more money than any corner in New England had ever gotten or any corner in the league had ever, whatever. Maybe they were still trying to save the money. But I do wonder why it's taken so long after the Witherspoon deal for this to get done. But that's why I was saying I'm surprised that the Gonzalez camp hasn't leaked anything about we'd be okay taking deal X, but it hasn't been offered. Now, maybe they really do want to avoid negotiating through the media, which I respect. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the holdup is. I don't know. And again, you're talking to somebody that has not a lot of respect for the cornerback position. I'm uncomfortable resetting the market at that position. I am. Now, I'm doing it, and I'm okay with it because of where the Patriots are from their Super Bowl window perspective. I think they're in a position to win the Super Bowl, and that's a guy that would help at this juncture. Any other scenario, I wouldn't want to give the cornerback that money. I would have traded him. But this team can win the Super Bowl, and you need all the help you can get. Especially when you lack depth at other spots, edge rusher, linebacker, etc. You need this guy. So, yes, they should have given him that deal already. I think it should be done. But I don't know. Maybe they offered him that deal, which is the right deal, and they pissed him off, and now he's asking for more money because they waited or something, or there's hard feelings, so they need to address it with more money. I don't know. Maybe that's where they are. And if that's where they are and it gets ridiculous, I'm not blaming them for trying to maybe wait it out, or maybe Christian Gonzalez doesn't want to, get fined and lose game checks, or maybe he comes back down a little bit. I don't mind that. It's a negotiation. That's all I'm saying. I don't think you need to just say, all right, anything you want, you're good. Here we go. Let's do it. I think you can have a negotiation and try. I mean, there's no preseason anyway. Yeah, he's missing some joint practices. Big whoop. Practices. He'll be fine. He's an experienced veteran. He's fine. I don't mind. I don't love it, but I don't mind them going through the negotiation. I don't think it makes them look terrible. But if they don't get it done, then they'll look bad. 617-779-0985. We'll take your calls leading up to the Revs game at 4:30. That's next. Mark Dondero, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Hey, the Peterson School has been a leader in teaching the trades for 80 years and is opening their 5th location in Dartmouth, serving Southeastern Mass and the Cape. Enroll now for their fall semester. PetersonSchool.com. We teach the trades.
The 158th Marshfield Fair is more than just rock.
All right, back here, 98.5, the Sports Hub, and back to you. Let's go to Eric in Danvers, who has a good one. Hey, Eric.
Hey, I was at the Garden for this one. Who's a love-or-hate guy, but Marcus Smart's reception and that video they had for him was awesome.
Good one.
Thank you.
That's a good one. I forgot about Marcus Smart. See, not the best player to ever leave and come back, but everything surrounding his departure, the passion that he exuded for the Boston Celtics, his return, how hard he played every night. He was such a lovable Celtic, the effort and the Tommy points and all those things. That was highly anticipated just because you knew how much he loved the Celtics and how hard it was for him to leave. Obviously, they won the championship after he left. Just him coming back to Boston was going to be an emotional night, and as a result, a highly anticipated night. If you don't think somebody's going to show a lot of emotion in their return, for example, I don't know what type of I didn't expect when it happened that Johnny Damon was going to, show a lot of emotion when he returned to Fenway Park. It was anticipated. Marcus Smart, you knew, was going to be in his feelings, and yeah, that's why it was highly anticipated. Kevin is in the car. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Mark. Listen, I've been on the road coming back to Boston, and you may have faded in. You may have brought it up while I've been fading in and out listening to you on the streaming. But Ray Bork, in a different sort of way, when they traded him away, he came back with the Stanley Cup, and there was 15,000 people came to City Hall Plaza to see him and to thank him for 20 years and being in Boston. And so I know you were struggling to find a hockey comparison there, but Bork's return to Boston with the cup, having been traded away a year and a half before, was like nothing I've ever seen.
Okay.
I know that's not in the moment of the stadium, you're back for a game.
Yeah.
But it was really incredible.
Okay, so Kevin loved that moment. Thanks for the call. I didn't. The Bork crossed my mind. The problem was I honestly don't remember the reception in the. I'm thinking in stadium reception and ovation. That's an entirely different conversation. I guess it was a nice moment. I wasn't there. It was kind of cool that he had the relationship with the city that he would do that. It spoke to how pathetic we were in terms of Boston's ability to win championships, but that's not the fans' fault. So yeah, cool moment that he came back. I mean, people want to call it an embarrassing moment. I don't think that's an embarrassing moment. That's a cool moment that he felt that way about the city, that he was going to bring back the Stanley Cup, even though it was an indictment on everything that all four teams were doing at that exact moment. For the fans, that was cool. And I'm sure his ovation whenever he came back to the Garden the first time was big. That would have been a good one. But again, though, highly anticipated, I guess, because you probably feel like he'd be emotional. Yeah, you could put that on the list for sure. All right, Danny in Cranston. Hey, Dan.
I'll bring up the caboose, my man.
Let's do it.
Listen, I don't remember the exact time it was, but of the many times that Bob Kraft should not have been in front of a microphone, one time I'm paraphrasing, he goes, "We've had a system that's worked here very well for the last 20 years or something along those lines," which basically means we never paid people. This is the first true test of the new NFL and how things are done. And this is a pass-fail for them. Right now, every day that goes by, it's a fail. And I'm a little bit nervous about that. They just don't feel comfortable having a very top-heavy roster, which is it's going to be very quickly between Gonzalez and May and whoever else they sign up, probably A.J. Brown again. And I don't know, man. I just don't feel very good about this. I mean, the AAV is there, but it's all about the bonuses and the language, and I'm dying to know what that's going to end up being. I think that's a sticking point. All right, take care.
Thanks, Dan. Good to hear from you. I mean, let me just say this real quick about the depth, just to reiterate something. If the good news is, based on what the Patriots did with Vrabel and Strike and all these guys that have come into the mix in the last year and a half, the 2025 draft was right now, I don't know if a grand slam is out, but it was a home run right now. Now, we'll see how Will Campbell is obviously the big piece of the draft. If he ends up a bust, which I don't think he's going to, that will significantly damage the reputation of that draft. But if he ends up a player, even a Matt Light level player, doesn't have to be, an all-pro. If he ends up Nate Solder, I think it's an excellent draft. Now, again, we'll see what Henderson does. We'll see what Craig Woodson does after a good season last year. You need those guys to continue to develop and become, hey, maybe an all-star? Can you become a Pro Bowler? That would be nice. That will then give me confidence about this year's draft class. And then next year in April when we're doing a draft, that would be, another chance to add the depth that I'm assuming he was talking about the other day. I just feel like the Gonzalez contract, as frustrating as this is, it's not like his contract is up. Now, I understand a lot of other guys from that draft class have gotten deals and have gotten extended. Fine. But I don't know the exact circumstances surrounding it, and I do know how I feel about the cornerback position. And if somebody in that organization, whether it's Vrabel, whether it's the Kraft, whether it's Elliott Wolf, feels the same way, I could see them holding the phone for a minute. As long as the deal gets done, I don't care. I'm not going to look back on this. Other people will. I won't. And say, well, why didn't they get it done sooner? Why didn't they? Why not? No, if it had to play out the way it did, that's fine. And that's what it looks like is happening. As long as it gets done, I will give them a pass if everybody's happy. He bought the house. And we'll see what happens. I'm waiting every day. All right, we're going to get you over to Gillette Stadium. Revs back on the pitch. You missed the World Cup like me? Listen to some soccer. Watch some soccer. Revs hosting NYFC today from Gillette Stadium. Enjoy the game. Jeff Williams, as always, thanks very much. We'll be back Thursday night. I'll be back for the Patriots postgame show after their preseason finale from Cleveland. Looking forward to that with the regular season just over 2 weeks away looming. Going to be great. Mark Dondero, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Enjoy the Revs.
From the Town Fair Tire Studios, the home of the Patriots, the Celts, the Revs, and the Bruins. Boston's home for sports is 98.5 The Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station.
This is Charlie Davies, and the Revolution Radio Network is on the air.
This is New...